Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me for another session of the Village Vitality series today. My name is Aline, and I will be guiding you through today's stretching and strengthening exercises. We'll be focusing today on bringing a sense of ease and lightness to the body. So, a lot of stretching, and of course, though, some strengthening as well. The specific strengthening exercises we're doing today are aimed towards working the muscle groups that will basically, once they're stronger, will help make your posture easier to maintain. And so for today's session, notice I'm barefoot again today. I really recommend pretty much every class moving forward, most likely being barefoot, if that is a feasible option for you. So go ahead and take off the shoes and socks if you have them on and would like to give this a try. A big reason for it is most of the time we're in footwear. That might not be you. Maybe you go barefoot around your home quite a bit. The average person, though, tends to wear shoes even in their house. And even if you're thinking, well, Aline, I don't wear, my athletic shoes or my other shoes that I go out in, I just wear house shoes. Even house shoes, depending on what kind of shoe you use for that, still doesn't have the feet working in the same way that they would if you were barefoot. So give it a shot if you feel comfortable. Now, also, of course, you'll need your chair. For today's session, not so important if it doesn't have arms on the sides, but it is ideal to have a chair similar to this one, a dining room chair or something like that. And if you would like a little bit of a stretching aid today, I recommend going and grabbing a hand towel. So something not a shower towel that's going to be a little too cumbersome to work with, but something a bit smaller. What we'll be doing with that is threading it underneath the knee to just help with some movements of the hip and leg. And so go ahead and grab one of those if you would like to use that today. And once you've gotten your shoes and socks off and grabbed your towel, you can drape that towel across the back of your chair. And let's go ahead and have a seat. So for our seated centering today, we'll be working with a breathing technique that we've done before called Brahmari Pranayama, or bumblebee breathing. And this one I chose for today's class just because it's so playful and fun and lighthearted. And I think it really does bring a sense of easiness, of easy flow to the breath. It's not super complicated. You're not having to count and do all these things. So I felt like it was a nice, lighthearted breathing technique to work with today. Of course, even though it is lighthearted, it has a lot of benefits. So wonderful benefits for the lungs and lung function in general. Also, this one, because of the vibrations we create with the breathing technique, is really great for the eyes, ears, nose, throat, and just working with those systems and kind of tuning things up. Okay, so let's get ready. Your options for seating or for sitting. Remember, you can come all the way to the back of your chair. If you choose this one, please try to maintain upright posture as much as possible. We want to think about always keeping the chest open and not caving in. So as much as I can, I'm going to keep the chest open as I sit here and try to get comfortable, but still a little bit engaged as well. If it is at all an option for you, scoot on forward to the edge of the seat. This one is by far going to be the most beneficial in the sense that we're already doing some good work for our posture and our stabilizer, strengthening muscles that hold us upright. So seated Tadasana, knees are hip width apart, heels are underneath my knees. Doesn't have to be exact and perfect, but you're going for that alignment as much as possible. And arms can relax by the sides or on the thighs, in the lap, really whatever feels best for you today. And so rooting down through the feet, through the bottom, really pressing down into the chair to help with that sense of lifting up today. And take a deep inhale, lift up through the crown of the head any amount more. At any point, you can allow the eyes to fall closed here. And before we begin manipulating the breath, just take a few moments to observe and check in with yourself today. How's your body feeling? It may be tempting to start labeling, complaining, negatively viewing certain aspects of our bodies. See if you can avoid that chatter, that talk, that negative speak. Not that everything has to be positive or we have to see the silver lining in everything, but as much as we can feel neutral towards the things that really work us up and get us angry, the better. Because anger doesn't really serve us. Just again, noticing, paying attention where you feel tight, where you feel pain, where you feel easy and light. And then you might also begin to notice things like, oh, I'm leaning a little bit to the left while I'm sitting here, or I can tell I'm rounding my shoulders forward. So just bringing that heightened awareness and observation. And for this breathing technique, you'll inhale through the nostrils. And on your exhale, you'll also exhale through the nostrils, but you will make a ha or, well, really it's a sound with the mouth closed as you exhale. So it'll sound something like this. You'll take a deep inhale. And then again, exhaling through the nostrils. Just trying to prolong that exhale as much as possible. Teeth stay very lightly together, not clenching the jaw. Tongue stays relaxed. So go ahead and give that a shot whenever you're ready. Your breathing will be faster or slower than mine. But deep inhale. And if you're working on prolonging that exhale a little bit more, you will find it helpful to engage the abdominals on that exhale. Go ahead and keep breathing, taking several rounds like this. Keep going. See if you can make that humming sound as loud as you can. Notice the louder you make it, the more vibration you feel in the teeth and this general area of the face. Take a few more breaths, maybe 3 to 5 more cycles here. But as you continue, also remember our number one rule, which is always listening to the body. So if you start to get any weird sensations, typically with our breathing exercises, it might be lightheadedness or slight dizziness, then that's your body telling you that you've done enough and you can stop. If you're still with it, 1 or 2 more breaths here. Finish the cycle of breath that you're working on now. And then release the breathing technique. Just returning to your normal breathing, but noticing perhaps it's a little bit deeper than it was at the beginning of class. It's a wonderful effect that our breathing exercises has even after we perform them. When you're done and ready to invite a little movement, feel free to keep the eyes closed or open. And on an exhale, drop that right ear down to the right shoulder. Inhale to center. Exhale, left ear to left shoulder. Inhale, center. Right ear to right shoulder on the exhale. Just working some gentle opening and stretching into the neck. Let's take another drop to the right, exhaling. Inhaling, center. Exhaling again, left ear to left shoulder. This time we're going to hold there. Go ahead and release that right hand down by your side. Take a hold of part of the chair, maybe underneath or the leg of the chair, and then just very slowly explore leaning over towards that left side. So I want to make sure I'm not leaning forward as well. I'm just going right directly over to the left, and you should feel that just intensify the stretch in the neck. Again, only go as far as it feels good for your body. So it might be very subtle lean. Just enjoying that opening. The muscles in our neck tend to get really abused. Go ahead and drop that chin down towards the chest, still leaning over to that left. We're stretching here, sternocleidomastoids, scalenes, a little bit even into the upper traps. These muscles, we tend to over-engage them when our shoulders and arms are not strong enough to perform whatever movement we're going for. We also tend to over-engage them just when we're concentrating and you start to feel those shoulders creep up to the ears. So we're spending a good amount of time here. Chin dropping down. Maybe now you're moving chin up even towards the ceiling. Just notice how that shifts the stretch. Whew. Stay with that intensity as long as you feel comfortable. And if you want to stop in any one particular spot, please go for it. This is your practice. I'm just guiding you through and providing helpful suggestions. When you've had enough of stretching that right side, on an inhale, lift up and release that right hand. Just sit here for a moment and see if you can observe differences between right and left sides of the neck. I can feel quite a difference in mine. And when you're ready, right ear will drop to right shoulder. Take that left hand now, reaching either for underneath the chair or the chair leg, and start to lean ever so slightly, or really just however far until your body tells you to stop. So I've talked with y'all before about finding your edge. Whenever we're doing stretching work, whenever we're doing strengthening work, we want to try to find that edge of difficulty. I like to think of it as if I have climbed up a mountain and I'm about to take in the view at the top. I have to get close enough to the edge to see the most that I can see. If I'm too far back, I'm not going to see the beautiful little mountain valley. I'm only going to see the tops of the other mountains, which is beneficial, but not as cool as it could be. But if I go past my edge, meaning I push my body too hard, I'm going to go right off that cliff. So we definitely want to find that perfect edge or sweet spot. Go ahead and drop that chin down now, shifting the stretch. We're still holding here. We'll invite a little more movement in just a moment. Again, seeing if you're really at your edge here. And when you're ready, start to just shift that head down and maybe even up while still leading towards that right side. Just exploring that inner terrain. All of those muscles, ligaments, tendons. Human body is so amazing, and when we move to stretch muscles, of course, we have blood vessels, nerves, and everything else running under, in between, and around the muscles. We have connective tissues, fascia. We're working with all of that, especially in a practice like chair yoga. Okay, when you're ready, an inhale lifts you back up to center. Relaxing, maybe taking some decompressive movements. Let's keep working that sense of openness and ease down through the spine with some what I call easy twisting. And unlike other twists, especially when we're doing this sort of twisting where we're really powerfully engaging deep core muscles, instead, I'm going to use my arms and my shoulders to kind of fuel this twisting movement, just so I can do it very simply with the main focus being the spine and not the core muscles. So as I twist to the right, I'm pushing that left arm forward, right hand slides back, which my shoulders correspond to that movement. And it's just a very subtle twist. So as I exhale and twist to the left, opposite hand motions. Right arm slides forward, left arm slides back. It's also one of those things that teaches us and our body's coordination. So coordinating breath with movement, but also teasing the brain a little bit and the sense of how am I supposed to be moving my hands again? So these are all good things to test the body and the mind and the nervous system. Exhaling as you twist. Inhaling to center. You may notice you're feeling some popping and crackling at the sternum where the ribs connect to that breastbone. That's totally normal. Try to keep those shoulders relaxing away from the ears. Again, this is not a whole lot of work necessarily for the muscles, but we are stretching and opening and warming up that spine. Take one more twist. And let's move into some side bending. So hands come down. I'm going to trace my hand down along the leg of my chair here. Left arm maybe stays by my side. Maybe it comes up. Totally optional. The main focus should be bending down to that side and keeping the chest open. Adding the arms probably increases the stretch and definitely increases range of motion in the upper body and strengthening as well. So decide where you want to go. So I'll show again with no arms. That's going to be focusing a little bit more on the spine and a little bit less on strengthening. Notice how I'm keeping my chest forward, trying not to make sure that top shoulder doesn't move forward. I'm trying to keep it stacked. Go ahead and take 2 more side reaches to each side, again, perhaps incorporating arms. Or maybe if you had been doing it with arms, now you're dropping the arms. You always have options to increase or decrease the intensity of your practice. You just have to listen. Not to me. Well, yes, to me, but especially to your body. One more to the right. And release. Now, if you have that towel, you might find it helpful to grab it off the back of your chair or wherever you stored it. Bring it underneath that right knee. If you don't have a towel or you don't want to use one, I'll be demoing what it will look like without the towel. But if you have it, you're just looping it under and holding either side here. If you don't have it, I recommend trying to interlace the fingers, if you can, underneath that thigh. So either way, towel or no towel, on an inhale, you're going to try to draw that knee to the chest. You're pressing the belly forward, pressing the chest forward. So as you're drawing in, you're also pushing forward. Chin lifts. As you exhale, you're straightening out that leg any amount, letting the weight of that leg kind of settle you into a deeper stretch here in the back. Chin drops to chest. You're rounding out the spine. Inhaling up and lifting, exhaling, closing and stretching. Your foot and ankle just stay relatively neutral, maybe towards a bit of flexing. Fun anatomy side note. Pointing is actually plantar flexion, or a type of flexion. And flexing, or what we call flexing, is dorsiflexion. So really our ankle has 2 types of flexion. So now you'll be able to answer that trivia question. One more round here. Now, keeping hold of the leg either with your towel, or if you're using your hand, see if you can let go with that left hand to do a few hip circles. So we're circling 3 or 4 times in each direction, moving as fast or as slow as feels good to you, trying to work out those pops and kinks in the hip. So switch directions if you haven't. Trying to open and close as far as we can here. And release that foot down. Noticing differences in the hips and legs. Even it out on an inhale. Either I'm threading that towel underneath my thigh and holding either side of the towel, or I'm interlacing fingers under the thigh. Inhaling to draw the knee up and in as I draw the belly and chest forward. And exhaling, opposite curve of the spine. I've often said it before, but from one movement to the other, you're trying to create as much change in the shape of the spine as possible. I should remember this, but one of those yoga gurus said you are only as young as your spine is supple. So all of these types of movements, our side bending, our twisting, our flexion and extension, are all aimed at getting a healthier spine. One more exhale. And coming up, releasing that right hand, or again, keeping hold with the towel. You could even try holding both sides of the towel with that left hand if you'd like to. About 3 or 4 circles to each side. As big of circles as you can manage. Reverse those directions. Trying to still sit up nice and tall, staying engaged. We're not fully relaxed here. And that foot releases down when you're done. Wonderful. Let's take a vinyasa and work through a little bit more strengthening and stretching now. So I'm going to recommend you all widen the stance of the feet. So I would say about shoulder width or in line with the legs of the chair for our forward fold, just for a little bit different of a stretch today. So remember your options moving into your forward fold. Hands trace down the thighs, hands in swan dive, or hands overhead, depending on how much work you want to do today. So taking a deep inhale, lift and lengthen. On your exhale, keep that length as you fold forward. Keep it long, 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 as far as you can into your fold. And then allow yourself to release forward. It's wonderful if you can release the head down, if that does not make you dizzy. But if you get extreme dizziness, vertigo, anything like that, you're going to want to stay about right here, keeping the head in line with the heart. You're still getting some good benefit in the hips stretching, back stretching. But if you are able to, let that head drop down. You're going to get even more of a juicy stretch and even more opening in the body. I like to roll my shoulders when I'm down here, just to know that I'm not holding on to tension in the shoulders and neck, which we all tend to do almost all the time. Maybe even sway a little bit side to side, just loosening everything up. And when you're ready to come up, and inhale first, lifts the head and chest back to that level position. Slide the hands onto the thighs. Start to engage those back muscles here. Really try to lift with the back and not by pressing into the hands. Take an inhale to send the arms up. Exhale to circle back and down as much as you can, opening the chest, stretching the pec muscles, grabbing hold of the back of that chair. Experiment here, higher up or lower down. It'll change the angle of stretch. And then press the belly forward, ribs forward, chest forward, lift that chin. Taking a couple breaths as if you could lift the back of your chair up, but don't actually try to do that. Don't want anyone falling. One more deep inhale. And on your exhale, release that stretch. Go ahead and bring the feet back to hip width apart. And start to lean yourself back, but not in a relaxing way. So even though my hands are down and supporting my upper body weight to some extent, I'm going to stay engaged and straight. So I'm not letting the back round. I'm really almost pressing forward, but at the same time trying to press navel to spine. I'm pressing the shoulders down away from me. Elbows can bend for a little more challenge because that will allow you to lean a little further back and engage the abdominals a little bit more. Straighten out that right leg, keeping the foot relatively relaxed, but a little bit in our dorsiflexion. And using my hip muscles, I'm going to open out as far as possible to the right and then slide that leg back to center. So perhaps you're sliding along the carpet, which is providing a little bit of resistance here. Or if you're sliding along hardwood or linoleum or tile, you've got a little easier. But if you want more challenge, either way, no matter what surface you're on, try lifting that leg and hovering it over the ground. If this still feels pretty accessible, you're not shaking, you're not holding the breath, and you want a little more challenge, maybe send one arm forward. Oh yeah. or even both if you're feeling really good today and you can maintain that straight spine. That's a little much though. I'm going to bring that arm down. And again, both arms can be down. Let's go for one more. Open it out and keep that leg where it is. Sit up tall. We're moving into a nice inner thigh and hip stretch. So I'm going to bring my right hand to the chair right behind my glute, and I'm just going to start leaning towards that right leg. If keeping the leg straight feels like it's too much pressure on the knee or just too much sensation in general, go ahead and slide that foot under you and bend that knee. So figure out where you'd like to move your stretch. Maybe that left arm lifts for a little bit more sensation. And try to keep the chest open either way. Try to resist the temptation to bring this right hand to the leg unless you can reach the shin, because I don't want you to press here and lock that knee out. So that's why we've got the leg or the hand on the chair. Maybe you can bring it down to the leg of the chair. Oh, yeah. And when you're ready, an inhale lifts you up out of the stretch. Go ahead and slide that foot back to the middle for a hamstring and calf stretch. So deep inhale here to lift and lengthen. Exhale to hinge forward, both hands to that left thigh. Maybe even bringing the forearms down if that's accessible to you. And remember here, it's really not about whether you can touch the toes or not. I mean, that's kind of cool, right? And maybe it's an indicator to you of, oh, I'm closer, I'm a little closer, and gaining flexibility. But we really want to try to keep the spine long, and we really want to open that tailbone up behind us because of the way that our hamstrings connect to the base of the pelvis. That's the only way to effectively stretch those muscles. So it's very common to think that you're stretching your hamstrings and even feel some stretch in the hamstrings, but you're really mostly stretching the low back. And so we're really not getting benefit from a lot of our hamstring stretches. If you'd like to, we're going to hang out here a little longer. You may have noticed we're holding stretches a little bit longer today. Some of you may like that, some of you not so much. But if you'd like to invite a little movement, just to change up the stretch a little bit, take your mind off of it, or put your mind in different places at least, go for it. Just one or two more breaths here. Slow and easy inhales and exhales. And come on up when you're ready. Sliding that foot in. And let's go ahead and open it out. Again, in that wide-legged forward fold stance. If you felt like you were going to fall forward out of your chair a little bit, you may want to just scoot the hips back just a little bit, because this widened stance can really allow us to fold a little deeper. Deep inhale, decide where you're going with the arms. And on your exhale, keep that length as you fold forward, Uttanasana, or forward fold. Relax the head if you can. Even here in this wider leg stance, perhaps you're grabbing for the legs of the chair or grabbing opposite hands underneath the legs. Or if you've got some decent flexibility in the shoulders and you'd like to work on opening the anterior or front of the shoulder along with the pectoral muscles or chest muscles, you can try to just clasp the fingertips behind you and lift those hands any amount away from the back. But remember, if you feel any sharpshooting, pinching, burning, severe regret for trying it, then just let it go. We're trying to bring a sense of ease to the body here, but we don't want to do that in too aggressive of a way. Remember, we're just looking for our edge. If you have clasped anywhere in any way, on an exhale, release those arms back down. So you can slide them back up to the thighs and start to re-engage and reignite the muscles in the back and lift up on an inhale. Next inhale lifts the arms again. Exhaling, opening out and down for your back bend. So grabbing hold of that chair. Remember your option to increase the stretch a little bit and open the palms out. And you're just, instead of neutral here, you're really trying to press everything forward. Pull away from the back of the chair. Couple breaths like that. And on an exhale, release. Bringing the feet back to neutral. Getting ready for some core and hip engagement. Let's go ahead and bring those hands back. Straighten everything up here in the core. Shoulders pressed down and away from the ears. Sending that left leg to straight. And if you've scooted back in the chair, go ahead and scoot forward. And you're opening out and coming back to center, perhaps dragging the heel. Or if you'd like a little more challenge, hovering the heel. Really working here the inner and outer thighs, and of course the core. And if you'd like to work the core even more and start to incorporate upper body a little bit here, release that right hand. Perhaps pursed-lipped breathing would be in order here if you notice that you're holding the breath at all or your breathing has become really shallow. If you're feeling good, maybe both hands come out. Ooh, you might notice you won't be able to open the leg quite as far. So decide where you want to go for the last 3, 2, and remember that last one, we're going to open out and then drop that heel down. Sit up tall and move into our inner thigh stretch. So my left hand is coming really almost underneath my glute muscle here, or to the leg of the chair. And I'm just moving into a little side reach, trying to keep the chest and belly open, shoulders open. Maybe that right arm lifts up. Just enjoying the stretch here along the side of the body, working into the intercostal muscles and the ribs, one of our really important accessory breathing muscles. Working to stretch the oblique muscles as well. And of course, feeling it in the leg here too. When you're ready on an inhale, slowly lift up. And start to send that leg straight ahead now. Inhale to lift and lengthen again, both hands to that right thigh. Exhale to hinge forward for your hamstring stretch. Perhaps one elbow comes down or both. See how much length you can maintain in the spine. Really focusing on the belly, pressing towards the thighs to keep the spine long and to get the right angle of the pelvis for effectively stretching the hamstrings. Go ahead and open and close those toes a couple times, so just opening out to the side and then coming back to center. Of course, if that doesn't feel good to you, then just stay holding the stretch. See if you can stick with it here a little bit longer. I know this is probably the longest that we've held any of our stretching in any of the Village Vitality classes that I've done so far. So don't be surprised or angry at yourself if you have to come out of the stretch a little bit sooner than when I guide you out. Slowly on an inhale, start to lift up. And draw that foot in. All right, before we come up to standing and do a little bit of standing, strengthening, stretching, and balancing. So we'll be doing all three of those things while standing today. So a little bit of a longer standing sequence. We're going to do an optional abdominal challenge, abdominals and hip flexors. So for this movement, you are going to make sure you're at the edge of your chair, both hands come behind you, straighten both legs out. So notice when I bring my hands behind me, my tendency is going to be to do this. That's cheating. Let's engage those abdominals, lift up and out, maybe even bend the elbows a little bit and press the shoulders down. And I'm kind of squeezing the shoulder blades together behind me as well. So we're going to practice some bicycling, and I'll show you two variations here. One is for those with, I would say everyone try it out this way first. In fact, let's do it together. So both legs are down. I'm going to draw one knee in towards the chest, and then the other. You can do so on an exhale or an inhale, but try to establish a regular breathing pattern. Good. Now, if you're feeling like this is not as hard as you thought it would be, or you'd like a little bit more challenge, then I would like for you to try not to have both legs down. You're going to alternate. So as I straighten that right leg, I'm bending the left leg. So both my legs are off the ground for a little moment. But if you start to feel that that's causing you to round, causing you to lose the breath, pulling in any way that's super sharply uncomfortable and not just like a, oh my gosh, my abs are really working, then go back to the original version. Oh yeah. Stick with it if you can. Of course, you can always pause, take a little break. If you're feeling this mostly in the back, you're probably not engaging the abdominals enough, and I want you to go back to one leg at a time because we don't want to strain the back too much. Right wherever you are, if you've taken a break, join back in. 2 more on each side. 1 and 1. Last 2 tucks. Nice. Relax those legs. Try not to collapse down, even though it'll be tempting. Let's stretch the fronts of the hips a little bit. If it's accessible to you, keeping the hands where they are, you're going to start to lift the hips up off the chair. If you feel the chair starting to tilt back, walk those hands a little closer into the middle and try it again. Just getting a nice little stretch to the fronts of the hips. Relax. We're going to do a little more stretching when we stand as well. Speaking of, let's come on up to standing. So coming up however you need to. If you'd like to go through chair pose, join me here. And in the theme of holding things longer, we're going to try to hold chair pose for a little while, if that's at all accessible to you. So walking the feet in. Don't change your mind, though. Come on and join me. Go ahead and shift the arms forward. Leaning that weight forward, lift the hips. Hang out here. Pressing powerfully into the heels. Core is engaged. Shoulders are, of course, engaged. Glutes are engaged. Fire them up. And slowly inhale to lift all the way up. And exhale, release. Nice work. Shake it out. Let's come on behind the chair. And you'll be facing your chair for our first little sequence. A little bit of strengthening, a little bit of balance work, a little bit of stretching. We're going to do that in 2 different ways. So we're working on strengthening calves and strengthening glutes. Again, the end goal to be a little more easeful with everything that you do in your everyday activities. So fingertips to the chair. We want a decent amount of space. I don't want to be right up on that chair touching it. So I want a little bit of space here. Feet hip width apart. And you're going to lift the heels as high up as you can. And then bring those heels down. Slow and steady. I'm not forgetting what the rest of my body is doing. So try to stay engaged in the core. Shoulders relaxed. Very light fingertips on the chair if you can. This is also a great way to strengthen the ankles, which really helps with our balance and walking. You know, kind of two really important things. Couple more raises, and then I would like us to do a little stretch and then a little balance. Let's take 2 more lifts. Trying to work that range of motion and the ankle, coming as high up onto the toes as you can. I think I lied. 3 more lifts. All right. Just quick little stretch for the calves here. So stepping that right foot back and trying to push back into that heel until you feel a stretch. Back leg stays pretty straight. Be careful not to press too hard into your chair here. You don't want it to fly out from underneath you. All right. Remember I told you once, maybe more than once, we got to hold these stretches for at least 15 seconds, ideally 30 or more. And that's because we have protective mechanisms in the muscles that sense the muscle stretching, want to prevent the muscle from ripping, and actually engage the muscle that you're trying to stretch until the body realizes, okay, this is as far as we're going. We're not going to tear. And we can let go and actually let the muscle passively stretch. Go ahead and step forward and switch it out. So stepping that left foot back. Feeling that nice stretch there in the calf. Your heel might not touch the ground. That's totally normal. It depends on range of motion in the ankle joint and the calf flexibility. But that's what you're going for, is trying to sink that heel down. Keep those shoulders relaxed, y'all. Couple nice deep breaths here. I gave you my spiel on the other side. Now I don't have anything to talk about to pass the time. Let's just take 2 more deep inhales and exhales. And slowly step that left foot forward. Now, to work on the balance a little bit, we're going to come back to that same calf raise position. And in fact, we're going to lift back up one more time. This time you're holding. So trying to hold here, trying to stabilize the ankle joints. They're probably going to be a bit wobbly. Again, normal. But you're trying to stabilize, engage, and perhaps lift away. Maybe just one hand. Maybe you alternate. Maybe you get both for a split second and come back. Maybe you have to drop the heels down and pause for a few breaths and then come back. Let's try to take a little bit longer here, finding a focus point. Working on that balance in a little different of a way. Super stabilizing for the ankles, even though they probably feel very unstable right now. When you've had enough, try one more breath. And then relax. Shake it out. You might want to stretch the top of the foot. And then the other. Or any other movements that feel good to you. Maybe going back into that calf stretch, but not for 15 whole seconds this time. So just a little bit more of a dynamic stretch. Okay, one more strengthening, balancing, and stretching movement here, and then we'll call it quits for today. So still maintaining a decent amount of space, probably from the toes to the chair at least 6 inches or more. We're going to do some hip extensions. So I'm going to lean slightly into that left hip very subtly. I'm not dumping over to that side. Zipping up in the core. I'm going to take that right leg and I'm just going to push it back, keeping the leg straight. Really powerfully engaging the glute, trying not to lean forward. So it may be a very minimal 2 inches, perhaps your leg goes back. That's fine as long as you're feeling the glutes engage. And of course, you'll feel it in the left side as well. A lot of people don't think about that, but that side is holding and stabilizing you and holding all of your body weight in that one leg. Almost there. Let's do 2 more. On this last one, keep pushing out and back. Now lean forward into Warrior 3 balance. So I'm leaning forward. I'm trying to lift that leg as high up as I can without opening the hips. So try to keep that hip down. In fact, if it's accessible to you and your chair works for this, some of your chairs may be too high, you can bring the hands to the seat of the chair. But you don't want to really put much weight here, so I don't want your rib cage resting heavily on the chair. And you can even try sending one arm out. Maybe the other, although that'll be a little harder because it's the same one as the leg. And that left glute is probably really fired up right now. Let's relax, and stretch it out. So you're just going to shift forward and push into that left hip. That may be enough of a stretch for you, but if not, you may want to cross that left ankle over and do the same thing. Just a couple breaths here, hitting that 15 seconds before we move to the other side. And then we'll have one final cool down stretch after we do that sequence on the other side. Go ahead and find your standing Tadasana or mountain pose. Shifting the weight a little bit into the right foot, bend the left knee, lift and engage through the whole front of the body. I like to think of a zipper zipping up. And I'm going to send that leg back and release. Leg can hover the whole time, or you can, bring the toes, the left toes down as you bring that foot back to center. Just depending on how much challenge you want. But you've challenged yourself quite a bit today. So don't overdo it unless it feels accessible to the body. And that's really where I think one of the challenges lies in terms of listening to the body. We don't want to push too hard, but we don't want to push too little, because then we're not going to create change in terms of strengthening and stretching. 2 more. It's all a grand experiment that hopefully we're doing right. Send it back. This time, start to hinge forward. As you lift that leg up, try to keep the left hip down, so almost like you're turning it in. Sometimes that overcorrection will actually bring us to the right stance. Keep the hands here for a little arm engagement. Here, you can even send that opposite arm out, or if you'd like to go a little deeper into the pose, you can bring the hands to the seat of the chair, and same deal. And eventually, this pose is performed with both arms out. Very challenging. May never happen, but who knows? It might. That's what we're working towards. That maybe we can. We're just going to see where our bodies can take us. When you're ready to come out of this, slowly come up. Whew, whew, let's stretch that glute out. A lot of hard work here. So you may just feel plenty of sensation just kind of popping into that hip to stretch it out. You may want to cross the ankle and do the same thing. I'm going to stay here this time. I think I'm a little tighter on my right side. So just moving into that stretch. Let's get ready to take our final cool down stretch. Standing downward dog. One of my all-time favorites in our chair yoga practice. I'll show you 2 variations this time. For those of you that are a little more flexible, I'll show another option. So hands come to the outer edges of your chair. Walk those feet back. Keep the back as flat as you can for as long as you can. Stop once you feel all of this start to stretch. And then see if you can sink the chest any amount more. The belly sinks down. The head sinks down. Maybe even the head drops below the heart. So you're also stretching into the chest and the shoulders. Try not to lock the knees out. Do keep them as straight as you can. And stay there, or if you want to try the other version, you're going to come around to the front of your chair. You're going to bring the hands. So the key to knowing whether you can do this version or not safely is if you can bring the hands to the chair without rounding the back. So if you can maintain, and it's okay if you bend the knees, if you can maintain a nice flat back here, go ahead and give this one a shot. So basically you're doing the same thing. You're walking the feet away until you get that lovely downward dog stretch. Slight little bend in the knees. Finding as much release as you can. Those of you that have been holding it on the back of the chair, go ahead and slowly start to come up. Those of you who've tried the other variation, stay there a little bit longer. But to come up, you're going to start to lift the head and chest first. And then you're going to just very slowly, gradually walk those feet in. Those of you that joined me for that second variation, start to come up now. And those of you who are doing the second variation, before you just lift up from here, you may want to bring hands to the back of the chair. Just so you're not dizzy, you're coming up nice and slow. Yes, take any final movements. Let's relax a little bit. So coming down for your final relaxation. Again, taking any other stretches that may feel good to you. Find where you can sit the most comfortably. And if this is accessible to you, and maybe I'm just showing this to you for next time, a wonderful way to practice this relaxation posture is actually laying down on the floor. And for those of you that can do this, and again, you might not have the space situated to do this today, but if you can get down onto the floor, you're going to scoot over as close to your chair as you can. Come on down to your back and see if you can get those legs up in your chair. It's just a wonderful variation of legs up the wall. Really great for your circulation, really relaxing for the low back. It may take you a good amount of time to get down there, but it might be worth it. So wherever you are, I'm going to stay here, but wherever you are, relax into your chair as much as you possibly can. Relax the hands wherever they feel comfortable, maybe in the lap.
And yeah, you may be like, Aline, you're insane. I'm not getting down on the floor, but I have been teaching chair yoga for quite a while. I've had 80-plus-year-olds getting down on the floor. So it really just depends on your comfort and ability level. But I don't recommend it if you have a really hard floor. It's not going to be very comfortable. Close the eyes. Relax the breathing. Let your body just take over again as the air glides in and out of the nostrils. Feel both a sense of heaviness as the body relaxes and sinks into release, and at the same time feeling a sense of lightness, especially in the parts of the body that we've worked to stretch and open today. And just relaxing here, enjoying the duality of heaviness and lightness. Begin now to deepen the inhales, bringing focus and concentration back to the effort of breathing. Feeling as if you're sending the breath all the way down to the toes and the fingers, just reawakening the body. And start to bring movement to those small joints. Any movements that feel good. Pointing and flexing, making a fist with the hands and stretching the fingers, or just scrunching things up and stretching them out. Go ahead and reach those arms up overhead if you'd like to take a nice long stretch in the body. And you can slowly bring yourself to seated if you're already in the chair, or to sitting up away from the chair. If you're laying down, just like you came up, you're going to send the legs off to one side. You're going to roll onto your side. You can stay here for a couple breaths. And then using your hands, and it's helpful too if you straighten that top leg at the same time. So I'm going to press into my hand as I straighten that top leg to help me press up to seated. Here I'm going to utilize the chair to help me come back to standing. So I may want to shift my legs over to the other side. Again, maybe I'm pressing heavily into my chair to help me lift up. And I hope you had a good class. Thank you so much for joining me today. I always love when y'all join in and work on just opening, strengthening, and all of the things that your bodies have been missing during this pandemic, and maybe even prior to it. If you've never done anything like this before, pat yourself on the back. Feel proud. You've done something so wonderful for not only your physical body, but also your mental and emotional, and maybe even your spiritual health. So thank you again for practicing,
And I hope that this sense of ease and lightness that is maybe in your body now can just move forward with you as long as possible throughout the day to day. If you have any questions, comments, need help with anything, want handouts on breathing techniques, shoot me an email or give me a phone call. If you're not sure where to find my contact information, it is on the hub. You can look me up in the directory. You can always also call the front desk and get my information as well. So have a great day, everyone. I'll see you next time. Bye.